Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. You're speaking
Hmm.
to, or I am speaking. I am
Hold,
Ivek. Hello, hi.
Ivik, hold on. Did the
Yes.
password for
Okay.
for uh first stream
Oh
change?
shit. Yes, he did. He did send that.
Oops. Okay.
Didn't you get it?
Nope.
It's in the main group.
Okay. Let me check.
Hello,
Uh,
people in first stream.
yes.
There you
Apologies. Um.
go.
Where is
We're
it?
doing quite well already today.
Yep.
this is pretty much the normal
Yep.
go right in the beginning.
This is
Hey, at
stock
least it's
standard.
natural.
Yeah. This is stock standard.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect.
Hello, Furry FM.
Oh god, I do not want to say that to these people.
We're here. We're live everywhere.
Oh, hi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the south-afrifur podcast. You are speaking to myself, Ivek. Scratch on the other side, and then our two guests, both of them are ex-Marines now, yes?
Former.
Yeah, former Marines.
Former Marines from Indiana?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the voice on the one side is Brutus, and then the other voice, say it, Polaris.
Yes, this is me.
And I am me.
Yes. Well, we're going to confuse people today.
I
We'll be-
can't wait.
We'll be fine.
And oddly enough, they're coming at us live from Fur Reality.
We are.
RoomCon 2016, as I like to call it.
Yeah, RoomCon 2016. How is that, by the way?
Well, the room parties were excellent.
Friday was a bit slow, but Saturday definitely picked up, and it was pretty good. There was a lot of really good comedy panels.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely
I heard
fun.
I heard Uncle Kage made it that side.
Yep.
Yes.
Uncle Kage, Alkali. They had a live Dragot show here with Xander and Alkali,
And a whole slew of guests
and drinking.
and drinking.
Best thing.
What's a dragite? What?
Dragot
What?
show.
Yeah.
It's apparently a comedy podcast, a drunk comedy podcast that's done.
Oh.
It was quite entertaining to be a live
If
audience.
that's the case, yeah. I think if that's the case, I think we do that almost every weekend.
I think it's something we need to do, like put more energy into actually being funny and drunk. Both of those things.
Well, we have booze here.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, but let's put some time aside. Let's not ruin the experience for our guests by trying to be funny now.
No, what? Sorry, try
I've
to
been
be
telling
funny.
bad
Come
puns
on,
all
the
time,
funniest
so
people
don't
are.
worry.
It's the best. No, like seriously, my flatmates hate me for it. But what's life if you can't just, I don't know, play around with the language you know?
I blame Polaris because when I got married to him, he just started telling me bad puns until it infected me, and now I tell bad puns.
Yeah.
Nearly 4 years of awful jokes.
Oh, God.
Congratulations, you two.
Scratch and I had a game called the Pun Game,
Oh no.
which involved punching people.
Yeah, you get punished. If it's bad enough, you get punished by being punched.
Excellent. Excellent.
If you laugh, you're off the hook.
Yeah.
All right. So, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Do you want to go first, Polaris?
Sure. Well, myself, as I said, I'm a former Marine, Marine Corps infantry to be precise, from the years of 2008 to 2013. 2 combat deployments, been all around the world, and only been a part of the furry fandom for about a month, roughly.
Wow.
So still very new.
Oh, my sweet
I'm
little
done.
child.
Okay. All right, and Brutus?
Well, I was also a former Marine. I was in from the years of 2011 until 2014. I worked on the unmanned aerial vehicles. They're, if you watch media, they're normally known as drones. Essentially, I babysat an oversized RC aircraft.
You say babysat that?
Yeah.
It's not like it just sits there. That thing needs some proper attention.
Oh, those
Yeah.
those things are devils. They're absolute demons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go
Essentially, imagine someone coming up to you with an old car and being like, "Hey, let's restore this
Every day.
every day."
Forever.
This is your life now.
How old are those things?
Well, it's funny because the old aircraft that I used to work on, the company tricked the U.S. government into using said aircraft. Or we're pretty sure they wheeled and dealed them into getting a low bid, but they got a 15-year contract. So we were using, at least my unit was using a drone from the 1980s up until this last year when they finally picked up brand new technology.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the camera on it, if you've ever seen those old videos with the massive shoulder-mounted cameras that have like really staticky pictures,
Yep.
that's about the view you got from them.
I really can't say much about the age of anything I used because fighting techniques are pretty much the same thing that people have been doing ever since war started.
Oh, and also the Marine Corps is essentially known as the red-headed stepchild of all of the branches, so we never get any of the nice things because we will ruin them.
It's very true.
Okay. What have you ruined so far?
What haven't we ruined?
There's a story here.
Question.
Essentially equate Marines to furries, just take away the fursuits.
Okay,
I'm gonna put you in a uniform.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna mention a few things, and I want a number. Flipped Humvees.
Oh, I've seen so many of those, whether by explosions or just someone falling asleep at the wheel, or just simple because the up-armored Humvees have a very high profile of the center of their gravity. So if you take a turn too fast, they will literally just fall on their side.
Fuck.
They're like a janky Jeep.
Oh boy. Okay, and failed paradrops.
For the aircraft?
Of anything, like if anything's been dropped in the field, like if they had to, I've seen a video where they airdropped Humvees, like 10 of them or something, and
Yeah.
3 of them fell out fell over essentially.
Yeah, they airdrop tanks, Humvees, really any equipment they can throw a parachute on.
Well, for our aircraft, the only form of propulsion it has is a souped-up weed whacker engine on the back of it, essentially.
Yep.
I kid you not, it sounds like a weed whacker when it flies.
Yeah, I had a very brief.
And so we have to push it everywhere. If we want to put it up on the launcher system, because it can't take off by itself, we have to pick the 500-pound thing up and put it on there, and then we launch it. And if it can't come into land, it has its own parachute that it will pop shoot to fall and crash to pieces on the ground. And we've probably lost 4.
Wow.
I mean, if you consider me equipment, I've been airdropped.
And broken.
If you count fast roping out of a helicopter as a drop there, then sure.
You were not broken, though.
I almost died.
Well, yeah, but you saved yourself.
Essentially, I had an equipment malfunction on my rope for the brake to keep you from, falling to death. I fell about 200 feet straight before my brake engaged.
Oof.
Yeah, about 25 feet off the ground is when my brake actually engaged, and I slid the rest of the way down that rope rather slowly, and generally thanked everything that I did not meet the ground in such a way to form a crater.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully, almost all of the craft got recovered.
Oh, consider yourself lucky. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, luck is definitely part of my career.
Right, so the two of you are doing, I guess, what now?
Say again?
As in, after the Marines. After the Marines, what are you guys doing?
Oh, I am currently going to college because when you do military service, your college gets paid for. So I'm currently doing criminal justice at a local college, and I am also a freelance artist for the furry fandom.
Yeah.
I'm very boring. I'm a factory worker. I make windshields for a living and pay the bills.
Yeah, it pays the bills. There's definitely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, someone's going to make the money.
I generally I'm just sitting here going, I could just imagine you sitting with the windshield in front of you going, I wonder how many bullets it would take to get through this thing.
I've had that exact thought, because, we pack anywhere from 50 to 60 windshields in the racks that we ship to our customers. And occasionally I just wish I had enough money to buy one of these racks and just put some rounds through it. It would just make me feel so much better to destroy these.
It's like
Admittedly, you do have the one robot that throws tantrums at your work.
It's true. We have some of the robots we have at my factory. They the different malfunctions I've seen with these. I've seen one of them literally pick up a windshield and throw it across the cage, just slam into the wall.
The robots hate your factory too.
How much programming goes into those things?
Quite a bit from what I've determined. I mean, I'm just your run-of-the-mill muscle, so I am not the proper person to speak to of how hard it is to program and or make those proper movements work.
Well, I mean, they had to fly people in from Italy to work on that for your factory on this past one.
Yeah, but they just emplaced a new robotic system. It's an auto trimmer. It actually cuts the excess vinyl off essentially to explain fully, in any windshield, according to the different standards and everything, you have a sheet of vinyl in between two plates of glass that actually holds the windshield together. So say if you're in a car accident, you don't fly through the glass and get cut to ribbons.
And that's what makes the glass crack in that specific, or break in that specific way.
Yes, well, if you've ever seen a broken windshield, you see how it kind of holds together with that glue-like material in the center.
Yep.
That's the vinyl keeping it together. Essentially, the whole reason for it is if you do get in a car accident, it's so either you're not showered with broken glass, or if you actually say you don't have a seatbelt on.
It's meant to catch you.
Yeah, it's meant to catch you, essentially. The vinyl actually makes a sheet of some material that gives rather than just shatters and cuts.
Glass nerd.
Well, I've only been doing it for 2 years.
3 years.
3 years, however. It's too many windshields to count.
So one of the things that we were talking about on the, I think before the podcast is there's obviously like some form of, what do you call it? What am I looking for? I'm looking for a word.
Stigma?
A stigma, yeah, against people from the military sometimes. How do you guys deal with that? How do you deal with that?
I mean, it's I found it strange because, you know, when you're going through, you know, being active in the military, you have so many people coming up to you and saying, you know, thank you for your service. We really appreciate what you do. Support our troops. You know, essentially being, you know, pro for the guys, you know, whether or not it's, you know, a war going on. But when you get out, I mean, I can't really speak towards the other branches, but I know fellow vets we've talked to have experienced it. Like, I walked into my first college class one day. You have to do introductions, you know, sit up, hi, you know, I'm so-and-so, and, you know, I was a Marine for 4 years. When I sat down, there was probably a good 5-foot bubble around me on either side, and I don't have any of my civilian classmates really talk to me all that much. If they do, you get questions like, how many people have you killed? You know, did you go into combat?
To interject for a moment, I've even had a person come up to me and actually ask what my real-life kill-death ratio was.
Well, it would be X and 0.
Obviously,
Zero, I guess.
Yeah, it would be X and 0.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it's just, I guess, you know, it's almost like a separation of cultures. If you were to come like from overseas to America, there's like this weird sort of disconnect between your two cultures, and there's either a misunderstanding or just no knowledge that's really being, you know, given to one side or the other. And so people only think of, you know, the media, what Hollywood and everything tells them.
Video games as well.
Video games, yeah.
Definitely the, you know, Call of Duty, Battlefield type games where people equate wartime with a fun time rather than what it truly is.
Yeah.
And then also, to piggyback off of your earlier comments, it's also, there's a weird disconnect. You know, people respect the active duty people, but they once you're a veteran, you know, you're a normal person again, they tend to kind of forget that you still have these life experiences that completely change the way you look at things, the way you act towards different situations.
Yeah.
I mean,
because, I mean, if the military itself is actually like, essentially it's very uncultured, you know. There's it's as silly as it sounds, an indoctrination process. You go through boot camp, you go through training, you live in this world where everybody knows where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing, and this sort of, you know, generalized code of rules and understanding, and you live with this, you know,
For
where
years.
everybody, you know, knows their own lane, they know where they're going, they know what they're doing, and then you get out and it's just chaos.
yeah, just not even organized chaos, just everybody out for their own kind of thing.
Whereas you take care of each other while you're in.
Which is actually why, I mean, even just recently, It's very much so, veterans take care of veterans kind of thing because nobody looks out for us.
Not even the government.
So,
Well, they try, I'm sure.
Yeah, I will say that there are definitely always attempts, but you always get those bad apples in it, and sometimes those color our perceptions a bit.
Yeah. I mean, and you can only take so many times of people failing you before you just start
Getting cynical.
About it.
Yeah.
Do you think that the idea of, like you said, sort of servicemen looking out for servicemen, do you think that that's what sort of contributes to the idea of people becoming lifers?
I believe there may have been a break in your comment there.
Oh.
I only heard about half of it.
Excuse me. What I said is, do you think that sort of servicemen looking out for other servicemen, do you think that contributes to the concept of people becoming lifers? Like.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh, yes. I mean, well, to put it in perspective, for the Marine Corps specifically, it's, people jokingly call it a gun club, but it very much so is. You stick around long enough, all of your peers have been in for the same amount of time. And, I mean, for me specifically, I was overseas. I lived out of United States of America for 4 of the 5 years I was in. So very much so, I lost track with all of my people I was friends with before I joined and everything, to where most of the other people I knew, I only knew other Marines. Those were the only people I hung out with. Those are the only people I really spent any time with. So it creates this big vacuum to where you're off on your own, so you don't know any normal people anymore.
Or you don't really interact with what's the quote unquote American culture.
Yeah, so definitely, that creates lifers, because why are you going to go back to a world where you don't know anybody in it anymore?
And you don't know how the rules work, essentially.
I can understand that sentiment.
And, well, essentially, I mean, the only other people I ever spent time with was my actual family whenever I wasn't doing, military things.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it was maybe a little different for me. I grew up in a really small town. Everybody knows everybody sort of place. So when I got in, I had both civilian and military friends from all different branches. But I would say as I stayed in more and more, I lost touch more and more because, I mean, it wasn't a bad thing on the part of my civilian friends, but they didn't understand. I would try and explain things to them, and they just, there was a disconnect. They didn't get it, and so that makes it very hard for me to interact with them and explain things when that's a very big facet of my life.
I can completely understand that.
Well, especially since even when you're not there, when you're not on duty, even if you're on leave, you're still a Marine. And anywhere you go, I mean,
even when you're a veteran, you're still a Marine.
Yeah, it's very much so. They tell you this in boot camp. Once you get this, once you become a Marine, once you win the title, that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. You're always going to be an ambassador to the United States Marine Corps. Whatever you do, it's not going to say, name here so-and-so. It's going to say, former United States Marine, insert your name here, did this.
Speaking of things done, there is a question here from the peanut gallery. Endergirl 1307 asks, do people do stupid things in the military? And what kind of stupid things have you guys witnessed?
All day, every day.
Oh, absolutely. I have a million stupid stories of dumb things people did in the military.
To put it this way, Marines have a very big thing whenever you get together, especially when you're veterans, to sit down and tell stories of people being stupid, because we're all still human, and sometimes people think really dumb things and will do dumb stories, but they end up making great stories. And I mean, we've talked for 9-10 hours with other veterans just going on about the silly dumb things we see.
Oh, it
makes it interesting.
Like Brutus said, I mean, we're all, regardless of however much military training everybody has, we're all still human at the end of the day. And to be perfectly honest, everybody has dumb moments.
Some people more than others.
And the size of it, depending on your own personality, may differ greatly.
Yeah, and not to mention the kind of equipment you guys work with, it just sort of amplifies the dumbness of the story.
Oh, it's mostly when you're not at work that dumb stuff happens.
Well, work hard, play hard is another informal slogan the Marines kind of play with right there.
Yeah.
So, you work hard, you train hard all day, so, go home and have fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Point.
So what's the silliest thing that you guys have done? Like either
Oh
or.
gosh.
Oh,
Silliest thing I've ever done. I'd have to say, I did training on a naval base for a time down in Florida, and I had gotten together with a group of 14 other Marines, and we volunteered to help to create a fake snow park on base in Florida for the families around Christmas time because they didn't have snow. Well, one of my buddies, he had a very effeminate last name. I think it was Susan. His last name was Susan. And he dared me to get up on the karaoke stage while all of these, other military families and people were around and sing My Heart Will Go On from Titanic.
Okay.
I am not a singer by any means. I've never had any experience. And so him and me got up on stage and we danced like we were at a rave and sang My Heart Will Go On in front of all of these families to the chagrin of the people in charge of us downstage.
In charge.
I mean, I would say my time and my silly things were much more tame for me, but...
well, probably the dumbest and or silliest thing I've ever done was one of my friends was had been promoted that day. Essentially, in the Marine Corps, we do a thing that we call a wet down. It's where essentially everybody pays in for the difference of pay between the rank you are currently and the rank that you just received. And we use this difference of money that everybody going to the wet down pays into to pay for drinks for everybody for that night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as you can imagine, that can be, a couple $100 from, say, 30 people. That's a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
So we're going to this wet down, and I unfortunately have what's called a PFT the next day. It's a physical fitness test. It's essentially something the Marine Corps uses to determine how fit you are in comparison to what the standards are. So I should not have been drinking that night. I should have been drinking water and everything like that. Well, so on and so forth. We end up hitting a whole bar run of about 30 different bar crawls across Okinawa, Japan.
Oh, what?
So it's about 2 in the morning. I have about 2 hours before. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 3 in the morning. I have about 2 hours until I have to go run 3 miles, do it anywhere from
15 to 20 pull-ups.
15 to 20 pull-ups, and do 100 sit-ups in 2 minutes in 2 hours, and I am absolutely shit-faced.
Oh boy.
However, luckily, I always partied with. They're called Navy Corpsmen. The Marine Corps itself doesn't have any actual medical personnel. We use some from the United States Navy. And one of my closest friends, Doc, who shall remain nameless, he saw that I was more than just shit-faced. I, in fact, had alcohol poisoning.
Oh, fact.
So he threw 2 bags of saline through me in the barracks as I ranted and raved about everything under the sun and how fun that wet down was. He managed to take me from alcohol poisoning to merely drunk as heck. And I ran a PFT.
And threw up everywhere.
And threw up everywhere the entire time. But I passed.
Wow.
That's probably the dumbest thing I've done.
Wow.
Thank you, Doc. Wow.
Most definitely.
Yeah, most often enough, docs are essentially like, if you're not friends with a doc, you've done something wrong.
Oh boy. I can imagine they're sort of
Wow.
integral to like the functioning of, well, essentially like in the theater of combat and out, like as you said, mere
Oh, yeah.
alcohol
Oh,
poisoning.
definitely.
Ugh. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Docs also come up with, because docs essentially, they're attached to Marine units, so they're essentially honorary Marines.
well, they actually have to. One of the things that I always found this hilarious. The Navy requires all Navy corpsmen that are attached to a Marine unit to get what's called their FMF pin, which is a Fleet Marine Force pin, where they have to take a test where actually by the end of it, if they pass this test, they know more about the Marine Corps than most average Marines do to be allowed to wear the Eagle Globe and Anchor on their cover.
Oof.
But yeah, since they're essentially honorary Marines, they get in and they essentially are the mothers, and they follow around all the silly Marines and pick up after them and swat them on the nose when they're being bad.
Well, they also, I mean, they're on combat patrols with us. Navy corpsmen are right there. Like, say, when we're on the front lines, every patrol has a Navy corpsman with them, almost always. And they're legitimately the medical personnel that are there saving lives right there with us while bullets are flying.
There's a story from one of the people here who was also in the military, but in the German military, who mentions that he saw, it was once in winter, one tank slid into another tank. It was apparently a very bad accident. Apparently, the look of the brigadier general was apparently very priceless.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, well, it's a couple $1 million worth of equipment just sliding
that's
around.
That's about as bad as the helicopter that got lost.
Lost.
What?
Lost. It was here on the local news. We saw an Apache helicopter, or no, it was a tank.
Yeah, it was a tank.
It was an Abrams tank that the Army had lost out in the desert, and so they had to go and find it.
So it wasn't lost as in lost in active combat. It was just lost as in like, shit, where did I park my car? Lost.
No, lost back home because people. Yeah.
Yeah, it
exactly.
was some training operation, and I guess somebody misplaced the tank.
Wow.
Props to
Okay.
that person.
Oh, that's so
We're running low
trifling.
on we're running low on petrol. I think maybe we should just park it here and come back for it later.
Did I park it? Was it this Abrams or was it the other Abrams? Oh crap! I forgot my keys.
For some reason now, when I see when you say I'm just gonna park it here, I see like the entire crew walking away and just someone turning around going whoop whoop.
I wish Abrams did that. That'd be awesome.
Not like it's really gonna help at all, unless the thing, like, I don't know, shoots out freaking taste bolts.
Not even a little. Admittedly, it's funny because in my last year in, some of my command staff decided that the trucks, the Humvees, were under the privy of the aircraft maintenance. And so I essentially had to be in charge of inventorying, babysitting, and making sure that all of the trucks and trailers got fixed. And so it always amazed me because before I ever got in the military, I never do this. Humvees do not have keys. There are no keys for them. They just have a little turn dial on the inside that you turn to start up. Yeah, strange enough. They just have a little like twist knob on them that turns to start them up. So whenever we get new guys in, we always tell them to go and find the Humvee keys.
Oh boy.
Never find them.
Yeah, that's if your new guy's annoying you. There's all sorts of things you do like that. You know, go find the Humvee keys.
Headlight fluid, elbow grease.
Headlight fluid, elbow grease. Get the batteries for the glow sticks. Find me some flight line. Another good one.
Oh yeah, find me 10 stacks of flight line. Until you get that one really motivated person who gets a hold of the engineer corps and they bring in the mobile deployment flight line and start setting it up in front of your unit.
That happened to me.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Well, kudos for him. Like he went all the way.
He actually called around on base till he got a hold of the engineers, and they had the different expeditionary flight line that they set up for, you know, quickly setting up an airport in the middle of nowhere for helicopters and aircraft to land on so they can refuel and continue combat operations. So he ordered a stack of the expeditionary flight line, and it came to our unit, and I got in a little bit of trouble.
Oh boy. Oh, shame.
I've got to completely applaud.
Yeah, no, that's some dedication right there. I mean, it's like on par with sending someone out for a snipe hunt and them actually bringing back something that you've never seen before.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just like that.
There's a question here again from Kinkin ZA. He says, of all the places where they may have been stationed, which one has the best scenery?
Oh,
you win this one from me.
Kaneohe Bay, Hawaii. Every morning when I'd step out of my barracks room, I would open my door. I could see mountains, lush tropics, and ocean and beach.
White sandy beaches.
White sandy beaches with beautiful mountains and sunshine. Glorious every morning. I was there for about a year. I loved every second of it.
For mine, I never got to go anywhere overseas. My unit was non-deployable, and we only have a very few amount of my units. But within the United States, of the bases that I've been to, I would definitely have to say southern Arizona, near Yuma, is probably the most gorgeous place that I went to, because whenever we'd go out to our training area, it was right next to just this big stretch of mountains. And you could always see, because I was there during monsoon season, you could always see this just wall of clouds rising up like this giant monstrosity. And there were just beautiful, gorgeous sunsets, just all these brilliant warm colors, the mountains.
I did actually really enjoy about Afghanistan is there's no light pollution out there at night.
Okay.
You can see. I wish I could show a picture. I mean, I really do. Like it for anyone listening, go to Google, type in Afghanistan night sky, and just look at the most beautiful image of nighttime constellations you will ever see in your life.
Well, I'm glad that you could see something in Afghanistan which isn't like desert and or desert mountains.
Oh yeah, I used to just at night sometimes I'd sit up on the mortar pits that are made of concrete and I'd just lay back and look at the stars if I'd had a particularly awful day.
Sorry, speaking about Afghanistan, and I guess like that's probably where you saw most of your action.
Oh yes, most definitely. Anywhere else I was just training. Afghanistan was the only time I was actively engaged in anything resembling true conflict.
And I guess like obviously somebody on the chat mentioned the idea of PTSD, and sort of like the effects of that. Like how do you handle that after not being in the military anymore?
Well, I will say sometimes it is a little bit harsh. I mean, you can definitely ask Brutus. Sometimes, when we're on car trips, if I'm tired, I'll actually get very nervous driving by areas with like trash on the side of the road. I really don't particularly enjoy being around large crowds of people very close to me because I can't see what everybody is individually doing around me, things of that nature. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself to truly have PTSD. But I would say that there are some very definite ingrained habits from just being in life or death situations where I just, get very nervous about things like that. The trash things and dead animals on the sides of the road are because one of the major things that they would place IEDs in whenever we'd be on convoys is they would hide explosives in trash piles, or they would hide them in dead animals, things of that nature. So seeing those on the side of the roads, if I'm tired, I can definitely get brought back into those situations I lived through.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I never saw combat, so I can't speak to having to, like, cope with it, but I know that, from me being with Polaris and, kind of seeing him relive those events and remember those events, like, I'd say the biggest thing that's really helped just from between the two of us is, talking it out, and even if it's not something that he feels comfortable talking about, just, being that person there and just, being completely understanding, because while I may not have experienced combat, like, I know that is something that will stick with him for the rest of his life. And, if whenever he feels like talking about it, I'm always there for him.
I can.
Okay.
I can imagine it wouldn't. Yeah, like Polaris, as you mentioned. I think it's just sort of a built-in wariness that you have, kind of. To shit around you, like you mentioned with the trash piles. It's not so much PTSD. It's just, I mean, that was the environment that you called home for so many years. It makes sense to bring that in to your daily life.
Exactly.
The military calls it SA, situational awareness. It's just one of those being constantly aware of your surroundings, because at any point, especially in a guerrilla type war, which is what I participated in, anything, even innocuous things that you would never think of, could hold a absolutely deadly danger that could kill you in a moment. And just being that level of heightened awareness, it doesn't go away. It's not something that just, you get up the next day and you're back to how you were.
Yeah, you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
I can imagine, like, once you're taught that kind of stuff, you break the glass of, like, yeah, you shatter the glass of, like, what most normal people, most civilians just perceive as everyday stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are times when, like, I don't really have as much of, like, what we call an essay as Polaris does. Like, he'll notice things, and I'll be like, I would have never have noticed it if he had not pointed it out to me.
No, well, actually, for a specific example, this week, our hometown we live in, they do this thing called the Fall Festival. It's the second largest street festival in the contiguous United States, about a week long. Well, we're walking down, there's large crowds, and I point up at a building, and there's 2 police officers on top of the building surveying in case of any, danger on the streets, just because naturally I look for snipers now at all times.
And had he not pointed it out, I never would have seen them there.
Sure.
Huh. That must be a weird thing to try and explain, like, when you're out with people, like, why are you looking around? Snipers.
Just in case.
Yeah, you never know. But yeah, like you said, you never know.
It's just, I mean, it's...
Yeah, go.
It's funny, too. It's not even, like, an on-purpose thing. For me, it's literally just, like... It's a habit. If I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. I'm paying attention to my surroundings. I'm looking at what people are doing around me. I'm, looking for exits, for places where I can get caught in a bottleneck, or for areas to where I can't maneuver in such a way to where if a fight ensued, I need to always have a plan in the back of my head. There's a thing Marines say to each other: be polite, be professional, and have a plan to kill everyone you meet.
Yep. That's obviously said in Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
With the sniper.
Yeah, they did mention that. It's like, be polite, be efficient, and have a plan to kill everyone you meet. And it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
Well, with morbid sense, but sense nonetheless.
I think I've got a plan to kill at least 3 people I meet.
Well, I mean, you just need to work on the rest of humanity, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. I'll start by nationality. I'll branch out from there.
It's gonna take you a minute.
Just organize it. Get a flow chart. It'll be fine.
Some sticky notes.
I guess by culture as well. I think hipsters would probably be the easiest to kill. Here's an iPhone. It's got a grenade in it.
Oh god.
No, just give them the new Samsung.
Oh god.
Snap.
With the batteries that were blowing up on.
Yeah, and the
banning
Samsung.
them.
Yeah.
The worst thing is that this entire story is going on in like America about like, and then they were talking about like not charging your S7 or anything like that, and yet all I hear is radio adverts going like, yeah, no, call in and you can win yourself or you can win a Samsung S7.
Oh my god!
Nobody wants to win that.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's like,
are you sure you don't want an exploding phone?
Yeah, it's an IED. As Doge just said, it's an IED with what's it? An IED with a touchscreen.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Now, one of you has probably been a furry while you were in the military.
That was me actually.
Yes. How was that? How did people? Were you vocal about it, or did you just sort of like leave it to yourself?
I definitely say like the on the first kind of beginning area of being in the military, because it at least in the Marine Corps, it's a very hyper masculine, if you want to use the term for it, very hyper masculine culture. So I mostly looked at the art. That's what got me started, was drawing myself. And as I started, kind of looking more and more into the furry fandom, I found people who were, military who were furries. Like Twilight Saint was one of the biggest things that kind of, pushed me to being maybe not as open about it with people, like actually in my unit, but kind of connecting with other military furs, as I was kind of on my way out of the military. And I mean, just here at Furreality, we've probably ran into about 15 other either prior or active military furries here.
Yeah, I'm a terrible nerd, so I'm actually wearing my a pair of Marine Corps combat boots, just because I figured we'd be walking a lot during the con. So obviously, military combat boots are comfy as hell.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm not gonna have to worry about my feet hurting walking around the con. And I've had people come up to me, seeing my boots, like, "Oh, were you in the military?" Really? Me too. And then we, have a dialogue just based off that.
But I'd definitely say, like, at least when it comes to furries in the military, I've never really experienced anything but goodwill and, people coming up, thank you for your service. Like, there's a great respect for either, public service like firefighters, nurses, doctors, military, and it's really great to see that. Like, I mean, I really appreciate it. It's so humbling to run into people who are just, so kind about it.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
That really is awesome. One of the questions that I wanted to ask is that I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jay Naylor at all.
I've never heard of that, to be precise.
The artist known as Fisk, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Brutus is the one that's super into all the art side of the community. I just talk to people. That's all I do.
I probably am familiar with them, but I am having a mind blank at the moment.
Because in his comic, Better Days, and what was the other one, Scratch? That came directly after that.
Something about New World or something.
Yeah, there was that one as well, which was based on ye olde.
Wasn't Brave New World?
I think I have read Better Days.
Wooden boat battles.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he has one of his main character, Fisk, actually goes to the military eventually, and the way that he speaks about it sort of makes me think that he draws from experience from himself, in the way that he looks at that, or maybe he spoke to other people who were in the military as well. So if you guys actually want to have a look at it, it's actually pretty good.
Definitely will. I mean, to kind of piggyback off that, not to interrupt, that's one of my favorite writers. I'm a huge reader. I love fiction just in general. His name's Dan Abnett. He writes a lot of different military kind of novels, and he describes and paints war scenes so well. People came up to him and said, "Oh, you've had to have been in the military. Thank you for your service." Dan Abnett's never served a day in his life, and that's what he tells everybody. He has talked to a lot of veterans and got their perspectives and stories, and it's driven his writing to the point to where it's almost indistinguishable from actual how it really is, how chaotic it is.
That's commitment. That's pretty cool. Hello? You guys still there?
Yep,
Yes.
we're here.
Oh, sorry. It just became really quiet for a second. Sorry. Thought it blacked out.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you're good.
Yeah, because I know that there's I've met him, or I can't know, I don't know, but I met them on the Muck at one point, where they were actually talking about, or they had a very sort of realistic look at sort of the the war against the South and the North, all the way back from like your
the Civil War.
Yeah, the Civil Wars, and they're actually very, very accurate. Like, so a lot of the stuff is actually pretty interesting. Some of these people who are actually talking about military stuff, either they read a lot of history about it and find out about these people, and I find that to be absolutely amazing. That people are beginning to sort of tap into that and give it almost what I guess not necessarily innocent, but an interesting veneer of, like, from a furry perspective, like how would a civil war have started with this happening? And it's one of the things that Tempo, who's obviously been with us on our podcast quite a couple of times. Like, the way that he does that is absolutely amazing, because he goes into the whole Wild West thing, and he looks at things from that kind of perspective as well. And I find that to be very, very amazing, that there are furries out there who actually tap into these kinds of ideologies of, different people. And I guess it's one of the good calls that we have out there, that we have so many different walks of life when it comes to being furry.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, one thing that I think is really amazing, that is a parallel between both the military and the furry fandom, is you never know who you're going to meet, but you're always going to meet everyone from all walks of life. And you can come together, and there's just, a meeting of the minds of sorts.
And you always have something in common.
Yeah.
Always,
in the fandom. That's the same thing with the military. I can talk to any service member. I can talk to any furry, because we're at it may not be a core of our personality, but at the same time,
we're sharing an
Yeah.
interest and a love for something.
yeah. It just lets you be able to interact with anyone you run into in that aspect, because we can tell furry stories, or meet another service
Or we can
member.
tell military stories
Yeah.
to the furries and watch them go rolling.
Yeah, just it's just awesome like that. That's actually, I mean, I've only been around in the fandom for about a month, but so far I've really had nothing but just met excellent people. I've had a lot of good conversations. As you can tell, as I've been talking throughout this entire thing, I am
Excited, to say the least.
I'm excited. I like having a good dialogue. I love having a good conversation. I like meeting people, hearing their stories, hearing where they're from, what they've done,
and learning really cool things about the people and places and where they've been.
Exactly, and it's just awesome. It's a great place to meet people. It's a great place to interact with people.
Plus, the art is a plus.
Major plus.
Yeah. Huh. What? Scratch?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me think.
go
Let me
for it.
think. Sir, what year were you guys in active service again? Forgot the years.
I was from 2008 to 2013.
And
Okay.
I was 11 to 14.
Okay. Okay, jump back to what I wanted to ask. So, Polaris, you've only been in the fandom for like a month or something. I'm assuming you got into it through Brutus.
Yes, Brutus drugged me in, kicking and screaming the whole way. It's actually kind of funny. The first way that Brutus actually introduced me to everything is essentially Brutus, knowing how much I like talking to people, went, "Here's Telegram. You can talk to people about anything in it. Have fun."
Nice.
And then you went nuts. But, I mean, it was just like, it wasn't something like, hey, come meet all these people dressed up in giant animal costumes. We do really cool things. It was more so, here's one aspect. Here's like, the art side. Here's like the panels and the conversations and the comedy, and, just slowly introducing him to that aspects until, it was like, hey, you want to come to a furry con? And it's like, yeah, sure, let's go do that. And it's been fun, an experience ever since.
Most definitely. This weekend, For Reality was actually my first con ever, and I've had a lot of fun just talking to people, meeting new people, getting
Being
art,
goofy.
being goofy, drinking.
Miss M.
Watching the
I'm not
Fosse
sure if
Bruce
you're familiar with her.
She's a good friend of ours, yeah.
Yes.
Says that's all lies, and apparently it was her pure awesomeness that dragged you in.
Of course.
Oh, Em.
Um,
Em, you naughty woman.
oh, wow. Okay.
Way to steal the limelight, jeez.
Right. All right. Jeez. There's so much to think about right now. So when you guys came out of, or like how did you guys meet? Let's go there. How did the two of you meet?
Okay, I'll tell this
I'll
story.
let Brutus handle this story.
All right. My schooling in the military is one of the longest schools that at least the Marine Corps itself has. So I was in boot camp, infantry training for people who don't go into the infantry, and schooling for an entire year. My base was in North Carolina that I got stationed at, and when I got there, I knew absolutely nobody because all of my friends had been stationed in California. So I was not fans of the person that I got put to live in a room with. And so I saw a barracks that was next to mine that had a really nice smoke pit. At the time, I wasn't a smoker. And I would go over there and I would draw and just, talk to the people who kind of float in and out, because it's always a thing in the Marine Corps is, you can always meet a good person at the smoke pit. It's just a tried and true thing you find. And one day I was over there and I'm sitting there and I'm drawing, I'm talking about nerd D&D stuff, and I saw Polaris coming over, and he was a person of a higher rank to me, and I was a very nervous, introverted, sort of shy person. And so I popped up and I gave him the proper greeting of the day, good afternoon. And he looks at me and I don't know if you want me to censor this or not.
Nah.
No, go for it. You
Okay,
swear as
well,
much
he
as
looks
you
at
want.
me and he goes, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up. Hi, nice to meet you. And he shook my hand, and I just kind of sat there a bit shell-shocked for a minute. And he sat down, hey, what's going on? Lit up a cigarette. We started talking. We got to talking about, D&D and, nerdy things, Magic the Gathering, card games, stuff like that, because a lot of Marines are nerd at heart, much as some people don't like to admit it.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, all my friends are having a video game tournament. You want to come and play in the video game tournament? I was like, well, you know what? I've never, gone out and tried anything really sociable, and I did, and it was a blast. And we were best friends ever since. We got married later that year, and it'll be 4 years this February.
Congrats. That's a
Well,
sweet
that's
story.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Huh. I have a couple of questions here. Endergirl1307 asks, when new people join the military, is there like an outside initiation outside of boot camp? Aside
Yes,
from-
it is. It depends.
For the branch to branch, it's a little different.
I mean, technically, there's not supposed to be. But it's one of those. The rules say one thing, and all the people there holding
the culture says another.
The culture says another. And I know for Marine Corps infantry, it's it's a bit different.
Pre-boot camp.
Oh, pre-boot camp.
Yeah, I think that was the question, right? Is before boot camp?
Well, aside from boot camp, because that's an initiation in and of itself.
Oh, most
okay.
definitely. But I mean, I know for Marine Corps infantry, you're kind of, whenever you're new whenever we were actually fighting in Afghanistan, you were kind of the new guy. You weren't treated
You were
with
the
respect
FNG.
until you had a combat deployment under your belt.
No,
Because you didn't know how it really was. You'd never been out there and had the experiences. So, all the higher ranking or even the same rank guys that have actually deployed, they matter more than you do. Their opinions hold more weight because they're real infantry guys. They're real fighters. You're not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, from the side of air side, after boot camp, as if you're getting to your first new unit. There's always the joke in the Marine Corps. There's a rank called PFC, Private First Class, and people who are higher rank like to make the joke that it stands for perfect for cleaning, because if you're not doing something, you should be cleaning something. And so you, aside from the job that you learn how to be a damn good janitor.
Huh.
I mean, the only other thing besides that is like pre-boot camp, there are what are called DEP programs where they kind of like, teach you very slowly about, the culture of the different branches.
And DEP stands for Delayed Entry Program.
Huh.
But it's essentially like teaching you, how to keep yourself physically fit, how to eat, a proper diet, rank structure, proper like introductions and, greetings and everything. It's just a very, soft and much more friendly way of kind of teaching you everything before they, you get to boot camp and there's just screaming and crazy.
Oh, those yellow footprints, though.
Those yellow footprints, though.
Huh?
In Marine Corps boot camp, there's a very, very proud tradition we have at Paris Island and in California where you take a bus to get to wherever the base is. And whenever you get off that bus, the first thing you do is you stand on the yellow footprints. And, every single Marine that has ever been a Marine has stood on those yellow footprints before you. And it's sort of a shock value way to kind of be like, all of these great people, these heroes, these individuals have come before you.
240 years of, history, of tradition.
Yeah, do not let them down, essentially.
Oof.
Sure.
One might say they're big shoes to fill.
No
Yeah.
pressure.
Damn it.
Well, wow. So,
That hurt my soul.
I'll give you points for that one begrudgingly. Okay. Take it and go.
Yeah.
Take my upvote and go.
so Bravura,
I will, don't worry.
Bravura for Fur.fm sort of like to segue into the entry into that. Asks, he's got, jeez, it's a triple layered question. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 different questions, all in the same thing. So, but they all relate. I guess he asks the obvious question. Why the military? Is it because you prefer war? Do you have a fear of war? What goes on in your mind when you have to, obviously, do your duty, for instance? Um, Asks, wouldn't you prefer living without war and death? Did you ever think about that when you were actually going to consider the idea of ending other people's lives?
All right.
Do you want to go first, Polaris, since you've
I'll
done
handle
combat?
this first. Well, for me specifically, the reason why I wanted to join the military, we had a family friend. His name was Scott, and he had all this stuff together. I was, 16, 17. I was young. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And, here's Scott. He's got a great life. He's got a good family. He's got a great job. And, he used to always say whenever he'd be around talking, he used to always say that everything that he got in life, all of his, mannerisms, everything that made him him, the Marine Corps helped do that because he himself had been a Marine during the Gulf War. So I just, at a young age, looking at this guy who obviously has his shit together, it made me want a piece of that. And, I grew up very poor, very, very poor. I mean, we lived in a trailer, free, the only time I ate at school was because we made so little that the state paid for my food.
Sure.
Yeah, so I couldn't have afforded to go to college because, to be perfectly honest, my grades weren't there for a scholarship, so I would have never been able to do it. So in lieu of that, military, I can get money for college, and one of the reasons why I personally chose infantry was, if you're going to join the military, why do something that's, another job that you could, I'm not going to go work for a gas station in the Marine Corps or fill up Humvees full of, gas all day. That's something I can do in the civilian world. I'm going to do something that I will, I'll be able to see new places, do things that I will never, ever be able to do anywhere else. I mean, it wasn't specifically, I'm here to wage war. I'm here to kill people. It was, I talked to my recruiter. My recruiter said, you go Marine Corps infantry, if you get a good place, you'll be able to see the world and you'll get paid to do so.
And you'll make a difference because, infantry isn't all, going over and killing. I mean, a lot of infantrymen, they do humanitarian work. They go to natural disasters in other countries when they call for help. And those guys are the ones handing out water. They're handing out food. They're helping rebuild buildings. I mean, a lot of guys go just to be that, person that, they can be there to help you whenever things are bad.
And to continue answering the layered question, I mean, and acting how it is in war, it's you're there with people you've trained with, your best friends, people that you live with day in and day out, whether in training, whether you're at the rifle range, whether you're in your barracks, they're your family. And even though it's scary, because war is absolutely terrifying, anybody that comes and says that they're not afraid of war is blowing so much smoke up your ass. It is the scariest thing you'll ever be a part of. But you're there with your brothers, you're there with your sisters, and at the end of the day, it's bad to say it that way, but it's a you or me kind of thing. Who do you care about more, your brother that you're with every day, or the guy shooting at you? And that's strictly how it is. The whole Marine thing, it really is. It's a brotherhood. It's a sisterhood. It's a family, and that's I can run into a Marine anywhere on Earth, and as long as we both share that eagle globe and anchor, we have something, a bond shared by 240 years of history. Where every day the Marine Corps is in there bleeding day in day out for each other, and that's how it is. You fight that little bit harder. You make sure to pull your weight, because if you don't, that Marine next to you might not make it because you weren't strong enough.
I mean, I would say that I had a much a different experience growing up. I grew up in a sort of upper middle class family. My parents were actually state police, and all growing up, my parents were state troopers. They were going around. They were, helping people. They were saving people. They were investigating crimes. Putting the bad guys away, as silly as it sounds. But for so long, I had looked around and I had seen my parents, making a difference in all these different people's lives. I, seen, people come up to them and hug them and thank them, and, really appreciate what they did, to help the community, doing outreach program, Toys for Tots. It's a toy donation program for, families that don't exactly have the type of money during Christmas, so that they can have a good Christmas. And I wanted to go military. I have a picture from when I was 3 years old, standing on, a little, rock with me saluting, being a little dork. I've worn military shirts. I just have always, I guess, hyper idealized the military since I was young. And surprisingly enough, my family didn't want me to go military. They were absolutely terrified. And I fought tooth and claw for a good long year with my family to get me to, join the military. And I finally did, and I would say, I wouldn't take it back. I'd do it over and over and over if I could, because, the way I saw it is, my family spent, 19 years of my entire life caring for me, taking care of me, protecting not only me, but, the state and the community. Now it was my turn to, sort of give back and, do my part and, be there as that guardian, to guard against the wolf against the door.
Yeah,
I mean, it's I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, just sort of as you sort of see it as your almost like a civic duty. Like you've been brought up to understand the value of service for others through your parents. So.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And I mean, admittedly, also there's a little part of me, I wanted to go and do something that 99% of the population doesn't. It's a little bit of that special snowflake syndrome, but I mean I guess when it comes to my views of war and in that layered question, because I've never been to combat, so I cannot speak to the mindset or the experience in. But the one question that did stand out to me is do you ever think don't you want for peace and no war and everything? And I am a bit of a cynic. I don't believe that, at least in any time of recent, that we can really work towards a truly peaceful world. But I think there are always those people who are out there who will be that, that guiding beacon that will, lead people to, calm and peace. And there's always going to be bad people. You have your trolls, you have your terrorists, your whatever. But it's those people that are those shining beacons and those guiding people that really do, make all of those bad situations just that little bit more bearable.
Sorry, just give me a second. Yeah. Scratch, go.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm recovering. Just give me 2 seconds.
Fine. No, Polaris, I hope I didn't interrupt sort of the statement you were making. Did you want to tack something onto that, or?
Oh no, it's absolutely fine. I was just gonna kind of tack on a bit, but it's not really necessary. Brutus definitely went ahead and hit that nail on the head.
Well, some people would believe. I'm trying to sort of ask this question without, I don't know, being disrespectful, I guess.
Go ahead and lay it on the table.
Yeah, some people would believe that, and especially after that entire idea of not having money and going to the military because it seemed to be one of the only choices you may have had. The idea of a person mentions this idea of killing for money, sort of like mercenary style. How do you sort of like lie down onto that kind of question? If somebody came up to you and said, well, you went there because this and this and this, but like morally, you're wrong. How do you deal with a question like that?
Well, I would personally say that what has war been for ages? War has always been the product of the rich saying to go, but the poor fighting the actual combat. It's if you're going to call any military mercenary, that's all of human history. At least nowadays, we no longer take a fraction of whatever country we conquer and carry it back on our backs.
We at least Granted, political everything aside, because I will not go into that. I mean, we at least do try what we can to give back to the people in the countries that we do have to go into, because it's not the civilian populace's choice that this is happening in their home.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times where, in the middle of, Afghanistan, where not, if a firefight ensued and, say a goat farmer's goats were killed in the ensuing fight, well, the United States military actually has a certain amount of money that they pay out to the civilian populace to recover those different things that actually happen there. I mean, we build water, we build hospitals. While we're there, we're still trying to make it a better place. I mean, that's not individually the riflemen actually out there. And I mean, perhaps I can't argue the morality of it, because to be perfectly honest, I was 18 and war is glorified in the United States. It's, every movie, talks about how, glorious it is to be,
You have all your Call of Duties, your battlefields,
It is. It's absolutely glorified. It's, considered, a glorious, amazing thing to be there. So it's, it's hard to really describe the difference, going into the situation for real. I mean, the first time I was ever actually in active combat and people were trying to kill me, I just literally for a second thought, why am I here? Why am I in this situation? And I mean, I still did what I had to do, because again, going back to it, at the end of the day, it's more than just yourself. It's the squad, it's the patrol, it's
your family back home.
It's your family back home. It's, all the Marines with you. I mean, to be perfectly honest, if I wanted to be a mercenary, well, the Marine Corps doesn't pay enough. It's
No, it really doesn't. We calculated it out. I mean, at least for some of the lower ranks, because you don't get paid by the hour. You obviously get paid, a salary. But if you calculate it out salary-wise, I believe it was $1.27 USD an hour.
Yeah, you're not getting paid well.
I mean, if you're, you get paid to live, I wouldn't say comfortably, but it's not a bad living.
You've got a barracks. Essentially, you've got an apartment room you share with another Marine. You've got a chow hall on base where you don't have to pay for food. You don't have any bills, so that little amount of money you're getting is, pretty much for free.
And obviously your medical is completely taken care of. So if you have anything medical, obviously the hospital will take care of you.
I mean, it's just one of those.
And college as well, as you said.
Go ahead.
I said, and college is essentially covered as well, so...
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's only if you you only get money for college if you serve out your time honorably and get out with an honorable discharge. Otherwise, you do not get that college fund.
Huh.
All right. Well, that makes sense. I mean,
what constitutes dishonorable discharge?
Essentially, the Marine Corps actually has its, all of the United States military actually has its own form of law called the UCMJ, or the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It is a much more stringent sort of set of laws that all of the military personnel are sort of held to. There are obviously your lesser offenses and there are your greater offenses. And, obviously lesser offenses can entitle up to, a greater offense where you get an other than honorable discharge.
Or a dishonorable discharge.
Or a dishonorable discharge. Or what we like to call the big chicken dinner, a bad conduct discharge, because you essentially,
behave in a way that a service member should not.
Yeah, you were disrespecting your honor, your code, and you're, doing, things that the military would consider criminal.
Oof.
Okay.
I mean, it's actually bad enough. A dishonorable discharge is essentially as bad as being a felon in the United States.
Mm-hmm. Ouch. That's a tough banner to hang over
that's
your
probably
neck.
when people become mercenaries.
Maybe.
Ugh, maybe. Oh, yes, there was a question here. Doge actually asks about your sonas.
About our what now?
Your first son.
Your sonas.
Oh, did you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. My persona is a striped hyena who has a bit of, I guess, dragon-esque qualities, because he has a very long, sort of draconic tail and a spiked tongue. His sort of personality and background was actually based off of a character that Polaris played in a D&D game, where it is essentially ancient Rome back in the heyday of the Roman Empire, but with magic. And so that's kind of the background that my Sona Brutus has. Is he is a Praetorian in the legion of this ancient Roman Empire with magic.
Yeah. Tutorial.
Mine is a lot less thought out. um, Essentially, Brutus came to me, after I'd been in Telegram and everything for a little while, and talking to people and everything. And Brutus was like, "Well, you need to have a persona." I was like, "Well, I like griffins; they're pretty cool, and I really like kookaburras. They're my favorite birds. So let's just toss those two together and have at it."
Yeah. It took us a while to realize that we had picked two animals in the animal kingdom that are known for hysterically laughing at other creatures.
Yep.
Huh.
Well then.
I didn't put that together. Congratulations, you two.
Yep, and luckily we have great sense of humor, so that helps.
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. I actually have a question. Given your experiences, what would you say is the grossest misrepresentation of what it is to be a serviceman or to be in the military that you've seen in media anywhere?
Biggest gross representation. That's actually an interesting question. I don't think I've heard that one.
I've actually, I would definitely say, okay, so the way people kind of look up to the military of the United States, there is a thing that we call stolen valor.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Oh, I know stolen valor, but continue.
Yes, and actually, I ran into a guy at work that worked with me that actually tried to do stolen valor on me and another guy because he didn't know that we were both former Marines.
To preface, in case anyone doesn't know what stolen valor is essentially you never ever served in any form of the American military, whether active or reserve, and you essentially claimed that you were military to get the perks of being ex-military,
The
kickbacks, discounts, free food, people to essentially lavish attention on you.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yes,
You're-
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to continue on without that. But like I said, a guy at work came up to me talking about, how he was a Marine. He was a Marine back in the day, so on and so forth. And, I start kind of innocently asking questions, I'm not giving away, because the way he spoke about it didn't make sense to me, having lived through it. He said that he went to boot camp at Fort Lejeune, which, Marines don't have forts, we have camps. He goes ahead and tells us, just a different thing. And the other guy that he's talking to as well, he was a Marine back in the Korean War. He is a hard dude. I mean, absolutely just ridiculously. I mean, he's been working at this glass factory for 30-some years.
He's the John Wayne of how people would look at
Yeah.
Marine Corps.
Yeah, to put in perspective, his nickname's the General. So
Okay.
we ended up, he actually, after he's done talking and telling all these very obviously fake stories pieced together from 100 other people he's heard, we just go ahead and smile at each other, look over at him and go, we're actually both Marines and you've never served a day in your life, have you?
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Yeah.
Grossest representation.
Like whether it's
I mean-
whether it's media, like games, TV shows, movies, people just coming up with wrong ideas,
I
everything.
can't remember. Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
Yeah. I can't remember, but I mean, just generally across TV shows are very bad about it. TV shows and movies. I can't really call to name some of them, but there's
Generation Kill, perhaps.
Generation Kill is
Perfect,
yeah.
actually.
Generation Kill is almost spot on. Yeah, I mean Generation Kill is spot on. I'd say the they get it very right from a lot of other infantry guys I've heard, but I'd say more so it's the worst misrepresentation. I mean I'd have to agree. We've got another fellow vet in the room, but the media, news media is the absolute worst because yeah, I mean like they both said, bad news sells. They're if you can catch a veteran, especially a Marine, they're supposed to be this pillar of honor, courage, commitment, our core values, and they do something stupid, or they were one of those bad apples that got kicked out. It doesn't matter that they were kicked out with a bad discharge. The news won't put that. They'll put former Marine, ex-former Marine did this, or this. They won't go into the backstory. They don't care. They want to sell papers. They want to sell airtime. They don't care that they're demonizing and breaking down a culture that is stood for 240 plus years. They just want their money.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's, I guess, what about that sniper movie?
Oh,
American Sniper? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, American Sniper. We watched that.
Yeah, America, actually, I personally loved that movie. It very much so shows the hard choices that you have to make in the theater of war.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anyone that is a civilian that's listening, if you just kind of want to get a bit of a taste of the military, there's a webcomic that's actually done by another Marine called Terminal Lance. They do kind of a sort of, a comical sort of comic strip about all of the silly, just dumb, funny stuff that you run across in your time in the military.
Most definitely.
I mean, some of them might be kind of in culture military jokes, but they're, it's a bit of an explanation.
And also, if you are a civilian and don't understand some of the jokes in it, normally he explains the joke in the comments for, people that weren't served, that have not served, I should say.
People that weren't served.
You just got served.
It's true.
There's somebody here, Endergirl111307, asks about an art collab or trade.
I am completely open to that. If they're interested on finding me on for Affinity, did you want me to throw you guys a link for that?
Oh, yes, please.
Throw that link and I'll throw it down on that side. Maybe they can send you a note just now.
Yeah, that's fine. I am open for commissions, art trades. I don't generally do requests unless I know you very well personally. That's just more of a personal thing because, I like my art to mean something.
Mm-hmm.
No, I completely understand that.
So, for the younger furs that might be listening to this or would possibly listen to it at some point, what would you recommend them going to the military?
I would personally. I mean, for myself, even beyond the 2 combat tours I spent, I've been to 16 different countries. I've lived all over the world. I've seen different cultures. I've experienced, different people. I've talked to, thousands of different people from different perspectives, different walks of life. And I've got all of that to where, I'm only 26 years old, and how many 26-year-olds do you know that have been to 16 different countries?
Unless they're rich as shit.
Exactly, yeah. Unless they're extremely rich. Very, very few. I always make jokes that I get cravings for foods that I can't have anymore because I don't live in that country anymore.
I'd definitely say, at least from my perspective, I loved my time in. Were there dumb times? Were there stupid times? Yes, but that's life. You're gonna have that. It taught me so many things. I'd say it helped me to mature and sort of grow my worldview and look past just myself to see from different points of perspective in all walks of life. Though I would preface go ahead with, if you know anyone who is military, if you know anyone even who is like public service or can find someone, talk to someone who is a veteran or who is active or who is reserve besides the recruiter, because they can kind of guide you a lot better than that. Not to say the recruiters are bad, but it helps to get just that extra perspective. Not
to mention, at the end of the day, the recruiter's job is to get you into the office. The recruiter's job is to get you to sign a contract at the end of the day. So they're not going to tell you about the downs, just the ups.
Yeah, and those while those downs may be bad, sometimes they actually do end up teaching you good lessons.
Yeah, life is life lessons, both good and bad. It really is. It's not just, all this sparkly,
it's not just
happy
a rose
parts.
garden.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just a rose garden.
Oh, yeah, just looking for a few good men.
Yeah.
Kinkin actually mentions the line that I was about to say, a small loan of $1 million.
Let's not. Is the debate going on right now, just out of curiosity?
For what now?
I think it was beginning of this week, last week.
No, but there's another one, I think, tonight.
The vice presidential debate here in America?
I think I was working during it.
The presidential one. Isn't there a second presidential one starting tonight?
Yeah, there are 3.
Yes,
Yes,
there
there
is.
is.
Okay, cool. Just curious.
That's gonna be fun.
Admittedly, I get a bit tired. I won't talk about my own political personal beliefs because I don't believe that politics should be discussed with good friends.
Yeah.
No, fair enough.
Okay.
But
I mean-
we get talked about it a lot in my criminal justice classes.
Yeah. Yeah. I just as a foreigner, I'd like to say that watching this absolute shitstorm unfold is slightly unnerving and quite hilarious at the same time.
You know what? We've got some friends in London that tell us the same thing. It's almost like a reality TV show. You can sit back and pop popcorn to. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the scary part is that it's real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the very, very scary part of it.
Politics aside, but also segueing into something like that, like the political motive behind sending military people into specific areas. When you came out, how did you deal with some of the things that were motivated politically rather than any kind of actual or real danger?
Well, I would say personally for myself, I mean, if you look at the United States government as a stick, I was the pointy end being shoved into the shit. So, to be perfectly honest, I mean, there's not much room for politics at the front end of the stick. You're being directed by thousands of people, and even if you don't agree with the politics, you don't have a say in it at all. I mean, you can't just look at them in the eye and be like, I'm not going to go on patrol today because I don't agree with this political decision this person made to send us here. No, that is not going to fly.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it was more so not really a thought when it came for me, at least, because I know, we got sent around, shifted around, moved a lot, doing different things. And, you're always kind of taught, the commander-in-chief, the president, is, they know what they're doing. Their advisors know what they're doing. Sometimes, you can't see the great, glorious,
The big picture.
master plan that they have, but, just follow along and everything will be fine. And so you just kind of, put it to the back of your mind. Sometimes you'll hear dumb stuff on the news and you're like, oh, that guy's a fucking idiot. But, at the end of the day, you go and do your job and no one bothers you about it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's cool. It's a little bit.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's just sort of, yeah. Let's just hope that the trust being placed, the trust that you placed in your leaders is not misplaced. Of course, that is the.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I completely understand that because my brother just recently became a Marine this past December. So, with me having all the experience and same with Polaris, we fear for the rising political climate on either side, even in the third parties, because, who's gonna wield the stick and what are they gonna do with it?
Yep.
Are they going to do it for their own, ends, or are they going to do it for the betterment of the populace?
Well, I mean, ever since World War II, though, you are told throughout that, if there is a morally repugnant or illegal order, you do not have to follow it.
That is a legitimate thing, and people who give you illegal orders will get dishonorably discharged via a court-martial. So there is. You aren't obligated if someone says kill that woman and child, you are not obligated to do that. There is a way that you can say no, this is wrong, and you have a legal and moral backing for that. So it's not just it's not just the lemmings following the lemmings.
Yeah, I mean they do a lot of moral and ethical training nowadays in the military, just to avoid the whole "I was following orders" argument.
Yeah, there are to put it in perspective, there are 3-day-long classes that we have to take every 6 months. That is a moral and ethical training, just to ensure that everyone kind of understands that you're not a zombie, you're not a robot, you have a say when it comes to certain aspects of your life.
Free will is still a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
As you said, that makes a lot of sense given that, as you said, servicemen are doing humanitarian work to a large degree as well. You can't, you can't separate that. Yeah, exactly. You can't screw that up. Exactly.
I mean, you've got the humanitarian operations. If everyone's just robots, some of the happiest things I did in the military military was, making people happy, making people smile. We'd roll through a village and, they didn't have enough food and water. We'd share our food and water with them. And, giving candy to children when I was on patrol. I used to, in one of my dump pouches, I used to carry around like I don't like sweets. And MREs have a lot of candy in them. I rarely, if ever, would eat them. I'd put them in my pocket. And whenever we were patrolling through villages, I'd give them to children, the different kids that, maybe they've never had a candy bar before in their entire life. And, today I shared one with them.
That's really nice. Although it does remind me of that one part from District 9. Here comes the sweetie man. But that's just me.
Yeah, if you're a guy that hands out candy to kids, the kids will remember you.
And they will chase you.
Like every time you stroll through the village, it's like, Candyman!
I mean, Hearts and Minds is I honestly believe it. Hearts and Minds is the way to win wars.
Mm-hmm.
You can have your beans, bandages, and bullets, but while you do that, Hearts and Minds is a big thing.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, for better or for worse, Hearts and Minds is what gets people to sign up.
Exactly. It's true. It's, the Hearts and Minds goes both ways, If for any military, for any government force, there's not a government if the people don't love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually probably one of the more inspirational things that is, sorry. I'm
Keep it together.
You won't believe it. No, Scratch.
Hug far across the seas there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was accidentally profound. I'll keep that on the down low.
Okay. What's this military people being profound?
Stick to your lane, soldier.
Yeah, it's funny because the thing is a lot of people don't expect Marines to be smart because we're given the idea that we're knuckle dragging Neanderthals, but we do actually have some smarts. It's just we generally don't have to use it.
I still maintain I'm just a dumb infantry guy though.
Yeah. That story about the chocolate just reminds me of how is it that I forget the damn name of the series? It was an HBO series. They did the Pacific, and then they did
Band of Brothers.
the other Brothers. Yeah. Hey.
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers.
Band of Brothers, yeah. And I'm constantly reminded of that when it comes to the idea of like doing that kind of sharing. And I guess just like from our own experience, and I mentioned this on the in our sort of chat before this chat, I mentioned this idea of like what happens for our military men in South Africa, where we are a relatively very active like ground force, and it's not always like that, I guess.
No, it's not. It's not in Afghanistan either. It really isn't.
Yeah. And I guess like, and I've spoken to one or two people from our side, and one of the guys who was actually part of the, what do they call them, Scratch? Not the Kufute,
not Rekkies.
Man, our special military force.
Rekkies.
Rekkies, yeah. I spoke to a guy who was actually involved in the border war, and I don't know, like he was actually a medic, and he got separated from his company in combat, and had apparently had to walk, what was it, 40 to 50 kilometers to get back to the nearest base camp.
Oh goodness!
He was covered in blood. Yeah, he was covered in blood. They evacuated people. They didn't have enough space for him in it, and they just left him for dead. And he walks all the way back. He's covered in blood, and nobody could tell what his rank was or his corps, because everything was just soaked. And so they gave him a different.
That's crazy.
That's why the Marine Corps has a statement that we live by and die by. It's never leave a man behind,
alive or dead.
Yeah.
Even if you're just a body, that body is coming home with us unless everything fails. We don't leave people behind near as we can.
Yeah, that's if we didn't have that, I would be a little nervous about that, honestly.
Yeah. But I mean, then these are the kind of stories that I think that, and again, like we're probably gonna have a follow-up interview eventually where we talk maybe more intensely into a lot of these things, maybe share a couple of stories that we know about from our side. Because I did mention a couple of things on in like sort of other chats as well about, some of our men being sent up to Ethiopia, for instance, to fight there, and it's not a pretty picture. And I guess
No.
that's what a lot of people are afraid of is that it's glorified to that point, but as soon as you're in combat, and something that you mentioned as well, Polaris, is that you're there, and at this point, like you're just trying to get everybody back out again.
It's a reality check.
Yeah, it's very much so. It's you're and I mentioned this before whenever we were talking in our pre-interviews. You're told the entire time you're in the Marines you're not a real Marine unless you've been to combat, and it's because it is. I mean, it definitely the Marine Corps is hyper masculine. It is first and foremost considered to be an elite fighting unit by the United States government, and at the end of the day, every Marine is a rifleman. That's, it's been 240 years of history right there to where no matter what your job is in the military, in the Marine Corps specifically, every single Marine is trained to fight. Every single one. And not every branch does that worldwide, and that's what kind of makes us different and special. It really is. It's just in general, at the end of the day, every Marine in the Marine Corps is supposed to be that elite warrior.
Yeah.
That's not to say that some of them are, but it is the expectation.
Yeah. Trying to get them there, but you can't.
You always have.
Yeah.
You got to give them a little bit of some help sometimes.
Yeah.
Lead the horse to water and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get them to drink either by force or by anything else, and by any means necessary. So yeah, I think, like I said, like we would definitely love to have you guys on again.
Sure.
We'd love to be on again too.
Yeah, I personally enjoyed this conversation quite a lot. It's something that I'm always very, very interested in, just very skittish to talk about. Because I mean, again, there's a large amount of stigma around the entire idea of what kind of stories can and cannot be told. And
I would agree.
like as an introduction to sort of this, and I mean we had Mark Smith on here. He wears a white and blue fursuit. He's still in the military, and he's a genuinely nice guy. Like a lot of the time, I can't necessarily remember what he did, sort of work-wise, but he's been to Thailand. He was put that side at one point. Okay.
We giggle because Thailand is infamous when it comes to Marine Corps stories.
Yes. A lot of dirty things happen in Thailand.
Yep. Well, one of the things that they did is that they wore a fursuit out in public on one of their days, and like the guy who was wearing the fursuit was a black guy, and the people who are like the people of Thailand don't necessarily have a lot of connection with people like that. And they managed to get his fursuit head off, and all of them just sort of like stood back and stared, going like, "The hell is that?"
Shame.
Yeah, I promise you, we have stories for days.
Yeah, so it'd be great to have you guys on again at some point, and maybe even see if we can extend that same invitation to Mark Smith, so all three of you guys can possibly do a little bit of like story swapping and things like that.
I'd definitely be interested.
Yeah, same here.
Polaris, have you ever considered writing a book?
I actually
I've been ribbing him about it. He really needs to.
Whenever I was in high school before I joined the military, I used to be a writer. In fact, actually, I founded a creative writing club in my high school. And I got out of the writing game whenever I was in the military. I just didn't have time for it. And now, I've been considering getting back into writing here recently.
Okay, well, I have a contact my side Tempo, actually, who might be able to help out, if anything.
Well, first I have to work up the gumption to put words to paper.
I'll get him to, I promise.
There's a story there. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got to do or wrap things up a little bit on our side here. Pretty much, thanks for being here again. We really, really appreciate like hearing these kinds of stories. It's something that I personally really, really like doing. And it's weird. I often get a little bit emotional about things like this for no apparent reason whatsoever. So I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine.
But yeah, so we'd just like to thank our guests for listening as well. It was Miss M, Kinkin ZA was here. This is all on the first stream side. Ender Girl. I've popped a link for you, by the way, to her Twitter, apparently.
We saw it.
Yep, I followed her on there.
Then there's another raccoon who's also Kaki or Kakamavu, I think. Yes, that's the name. Geez, I can't necessarily see all the names that were here. Klaka was on. Dark was not on. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all the people from that side. On the Fur.fm side, there was Wolfie, Mind, Guest 911.
Probably some people from our side.
Yeah. Guest 770, Guest 401, Guest 381.
A lot of numbered guests.
Dreadnoughts.
Yeah. Our buddy Radio, they were listening
Bravura
too.
I dribbled the links in a couple of Telegram chats that I frequent, so.
But I wanted to say thank you to both of you for inviting this on, because I mean it's kind of been the highlight of our week that we've been looking forward to, is just being able to kind of have these conversations that a lot of people don't either ask or are afraid to ask.
It's good to sit down and tell stories.
It's always a good thing to tell stories.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why humanity has had storytellers forever.
No, for sure. It's been an absolute pleasure having you guys on. Like, no joke.
Yes.
This has been amazing.
Yeah, it's been great on our side. Like, this is so much fun. I wish we honestly could keep going today, and I'm totally jazzed for the next time we can be on.
Oh, for
Yeah,
sure.
though defs. We'll definitely pull a couple of tales to
Yeah. to keep you guys in the loop.
No, don't pull out all my feathers. I need those to fly.
Yeah.
All right.
Poor bird.
But yeah, you do have a couple of tail feathers. We can go there.
Yeah.
And things. I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking.
That's very.
For those of you who are listening,
You can always use them as quills.
say again.
I said you can always use them as a quill.
That would be a great idea. I think I'll do that. You can mail it down our side.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you imagine like a 3-foot quill? That'll be awesome.
Oh God,
Amazing.
Fluffing around.
the most
Scratch.
quill.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of sneezing, though.
Oh yeah.
Quill, you're sitting there going like flap, flap, flap all the way in your face. Anyway.
do the
For
dusting.
those of you who are...
while you...
Yeah?
Do the dusting while you're writing
Go.
something.
Alright, but yeah, so after the show, obviously in a couple of minutes, I'll be going live with a bit of music from our side. Those of you who are listening, please just, if you want to continue listening to some of the music that I'll be playing, mostly sort of rock, contemporary, and what is it that you call it? No, folk music, but what's the other? Adult contemporary, right? Yeah. Sorry, Doge has adult contemporary that he's been giving me for a while now, and yeah, it's pretty cool music. But yeah, rock, metal, etc., etc. So we'll. I think I'm gonna start off with Sabaton, by the way.
I have no idea.
Sabaton, military metal.
I have no idea.
They're military metal.
Yeah.
Like yeah. Anyway, yeah, stick to the theme. But yeah, thanks again for allowing us to have this interview with you. It's really, really cool that we're able to do this, and we're definitely going to do this again sometime. Apparently somebody really loves Sabaton in the chat.
Well, thank you for having us. We both appreciate the airtime.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. No,
All right.
really, this is fun.
Yeah, it was Def's fun. Kinkin says thanks for the fuck's sakes.
Use your words.
For the chat.
Yeah.
Very informative, and good luck for the rest of the week.
And enjoy the con.
Oh, thank you.
What's left of it.
Yeah, and enjoy the
Oh
rest
yeah,
of the
we will. We've got a 4-hour road trip actually.
Oh,
Woo.
like a. Alright.
Alright.
Alright. Well, we'll see you guys
Okay,
next
guys.
week then, right?
Yeah,
All right,
that's
see you.
next week. Jeez, a person that I have as a guest. All right, of course. What's his name? The Brazilian fur. What's his
Fox
name?
T.
Scratch. Fox T. Fox T. I think I'm gonna pull on him to give us a rundown of what happened at Brazil Fur Fest
Mm-hmm.
and tell us exactly what all sort of went down there, how it was, and he can be his exuberant self.
Bubbly self, yeah.
He's a very, very talkative squirrel.
Very.
So yeah, watch out for us on next week Sunday. We'll have an update and everything like that for you guys by possibly Wednesday or Thursday. And yeah, stay awesome. And wait, that's somebody else's line, isn't it?
Regardless.
That's mine now. But yeah, stay awesome, stay frosty. Don't die over the week. Please stay safe as well.
And we'll
yeah,
catch you next
I
Sunday.
think that, yeah. Yes. Cool. That covers it. I'm rambling. Again.
Yes, you are. Shut up. Cheers, everybody.
It's okay.
Terrible.
Alright. Cheers, folks. See you Sunday.